Oh, it doesn't even recognize that.
I'm gonna go pour myself.
Oh, you're good.
I'm gonna go pour myself.
Okay.
All right, let's see. This I hope this hears my
Okay.
voice.
Um,
All right, let's see. This I hope this hears my voice. Okay, perfect. We got that up and working. Perfect. We got that up and work. Ah. Okay, I gotta take this speaker out. This thing's being a piece of shit. What the fuck is going on? Let's see. And announcements. I have not done an actual live stream in a while now that I'm thinking about it. Well, minus the ghost live stream, but that was different. I haven't done like an actual like sit down live stream in a while, so this should be fun. Just needed a break from it. And also now Discord is. Oh, there we go. Now it's switched. Okay, there we go. I was like, "Why are you quiet?" I had you off of speaker, and I'm.
Valid. Yeah, your mic's much clearer now. So.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah.
I can't even type today. I put
Mood.
I was in this one server for this cryptid card game, and I put I'm live if A1 wants to watch. I don't know what the hell A1 is, but steak sauce, I guess.
Damn.
Yo, honestly, I was like really depressed for a while. Like when I found out that A1 steak sauce was not in fact called Al steak sauce.
Valid.
I
That's cursed, but it's also valid.
I'm like, oh, it's Al. And then my mom was like, no, it's and I'm like, what about are you gonna get Al steak sauce? And she's like, what's that? I'm like, Al like this, right? And she's like, oh no, that's A1. And I'm like, my whole life's been a fucking lie.
Valid.
All right, all right. I have I still have Kick, and I have a Cryptid Discord. I mean, a Cryptid chat on Kick, but it's slowly dying. That was my original starting point. Um,
Valid.
Kick's kind of gone to shit now.
Yeah. I haven't used Kick since like 2011.
I was gonna say I haven't used Kick, and I'm like, no, wait, I still use Kick. Um, I have not used. Well, I started using Kick probably like 2012ish. But oh, all right, we've been going for about 6 minutes, so I guess if we're all sorted out, I guess we'll get started.
Yeah, I think we're good.
All right. So hey, how's it going, guys? Welcome to Cryptocast, your source for all things cryptid related, unknown, paranormal. I'm your host Parker, and I'm joined by a very special guest. If you want to introduce yourself.
Hi, I'm Rhys. I am a biological scientist, and I'm here to kind of discuss some potential speculative biology with Parker. We're just gonna have a good time.
Yeah. So, do you want to explain what speculative biology, speculative evolution is for the people at home who aren't familiar with that?
Yeah. So speculative biology is just the branch of biology that kind of deals with things that haven't been proven, and you're kind of speculating about it. Like, it tends to be a lot of like alien stuff and cryptids, stuff like that.
Mm-hmm.
It's a lot of fun to apply to stuff like sci-fi movies, um, and speculative evolution. I can't speak. Speculative evolution is specifically the branch of speculative biology that applies to the way things might evolve under a specific hypothetical circumstance.
Mm-hmm. Then there was that documentary like that they did on Animal Planet a while ago about like speculative evolution. I forgot what it was called, but
I think they had a mermaid one, and then they had a dragon one.
yeah,
Because I remember watching both of them. They were kick-ass.
oh yeah, the mermaid one was great. When I was a little kid, I genuinely thought those were real documentaries, and I when I got older, I realized they were fake, and I was just deeply, deeply disappointed.
Yeah, I would be too. Those things are really cool.
They are. They had one for speculative evolution as well. The future is wild.
Oh, that's sick. I haven't seen that one.
I will actually go into your server and I will post that in the speculative section. It's all on the whole thing's on YouTube, so
Nice.
really, really neat. It was on in 2002 or 2003, it says, and it was narrated by someone named Tim White. I have no idea who Tim White is, but he sounds like a cool dude.
Yeah. Um, you mind if I drop a link to my server in the chat?
Yeah, go for it.
Cool. I have a server for people who are interested in biology, speculative biology, regular biology. We have a bunch of different categories for stuff like botany and zoology, like health science. It's a good time, and we're all pretty laid back. So if you're interested in
Mm-hmm.
that, you might want to consider joining.
It's a good server. Like, really, the big rule is just don't be a dick. That's really it. No eugenics because we don't like eugenics.
Yeah, we had an issue with someone joining and asking how, like, being really obnoxious, asking about eugenics. So after he was banned, I put in a new rule just so to help can stuff like that in the future.
Eugenics is like that's like the Nazi shit, right? Like exterminating like a certain group of things to make.
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, so not good stuff, guys. Not good stuff.
Yep.
All right. So, we could apply some speculative evolution shit to cryptids as well and see how like you think they would evolve like over the course of years.
Yeah, that would be fun.
All right. So, what is your personal favorite cryptid? Is it? I think it's Mothman.
It is Mothman.
Okay.
I'm weak for Mothman, although the Loveland Frog is also just a really fun one.
Okay, yes, no, I agree. The Loveland Frog's great. So, um, I guess let's start off with those two. So I guess how do you think Mothman would evolve over the course of like thousands and thousands of years?
Well, it depends on whether you consider Mothman more bird-like or more insectoid,
Mm-hmm.
because I've seen a lot of depictions of Mothman as both.
I
You
have
know,
to, yeah.
um,
He'll just
and there's
turn
also
into a
the really
crab.
interesting case of when people draw Mothman with arms as well as wings.
Yeah. Some people give him arms, some people don't give him arms. It just really kind of depends on what Mothman variation you wanna do.
Yeah, yeah, and it's really interesting because if you do a Mothman without arms, I think that's pretty definitively some kind of bird or bird-like creature.
Mm-hmm.
So the reason why, like we've had in the fossil record, there are records of birds with wingspans up to 20 or 25 feet. Um,
Oh, like the
but
Argentinus magnificus or whatever it is, that big ass condor thing.
yeah, stuff like that, and the Quetzalcoatlus
Yeah.
also was just gigantic. So it's not unheard of for a bird to be that big.
Mothman will just
Um,
become moth crab.
Carcinization is just such a wild little bit of evolutionary biology.
And guys, if you
Crab is
don't
the
know,
ideal life form. One day we will all be crabs.
yeah, that so carcinogen, well, you explain
Carcinization.
carcinization.
Carcinization is the process by which basically a bunch of animals keep evolving into being crabs. And the term for that process is carcinization, and it's really funny. The crab body plan with the pincers, the shell, and just the way it's set up is so efficient for the niche it inhabits that things just keep becoming crabs, and I think that's really funny. Um, as for Mothman, like I said, if you're doing Mothman with just the wings and no arms, that's pretty definitively bird-like.
Right.
Um, it, I can't. It's kind of interesting when you think about the legs because if you've ever seen an owl, like without all of its fluff, the legs are actually really quite long,
Yeah, it's got
and
the
that's
long ass legs.
yeah, they tend to be just kind of hidden by all the feathers and
Mm-hmm.
down. So Mothman, if you're considering him bird-like, is not plausible, but his biology is possible. The glowing red eyes also makes sense considering a lot of nocturnal creatures have reflective coating over the back of their eyes
Right.
to help them see better in the dark. And I'm trying to think. The antennae could just be a large crest of feathers. So
Mm-hmm.
that's one way you could approach
And then
Mothman.
another thing that's like pretty common with Mothman sighting is like he has no neck.
Yeah, and that's another bird thing.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's pretty likely that if Mothman is a creature who is independent from, there's like the theory that Mothman is just people like seeing owls and stuff at night and like misunderstanding it. I
And
think if that's not the case, Mothman is probably pretty likely to be avian or bird-like in nature, just because of the way his body plan works.
and during the when around like the Chernobyl nuclear disaster, he was called the Blackbird of Chernobyl as well.
Yeah, so I think that's pretty likely. But there is insect Mothman, or Mothman that actually looks like a moth, and I find that to be a bit more interesting
Mm-hmm.
because technically, so the basic body plan of insects involve a head, a thorax, and an abdomen, six legs, and then a wings.
Right.
So Mothman doesn't really follow that pattern,
No, he doesn't.
which is not necessarily a implicative of not being a true insect, because ants don't have wings; they just specially evolved to not to, oh god, I can't speak, to not have them.
Right.
Um, and so insect Mothman is less viable, simply because he doesn't really exhibit all of the characteristics of an insect, but they're not quite possible. So the fur of insects do have been known to have fur, like moths. They tend to have like a fluff coating, so that could explain the feathers. And if
Hey
you
Ryan, it's been a
choose,
while. How are you, man? Did you start your own podcast as well? After do you still do Venomous Fringe, or what happened with that? Sorry about that, Rhys. You can continue.
no worries, no worries. Um, so the fur or Mothman's feathers, or fur, depending on how he's depicted, can be explained away using common insectoid biology. Um, if you decide to depict Mothman with arms and then wings, as well as his normal legs, that tends to lean a bit more insectoid for me because of
Mm-hmm.
the common three pairs of walking appendages. Um, so it's not impossible that Mothman is just a very large insect that discarded its that evolved to resemble a human in shape through convergent evolution,
Right.
and it eventually just found that having the extra pair of legs was just inefficient, so it simply uh, stopped having them. But there is also the fact that insects don't have lungs. They undergo gas exchange directly through their carapace.
I did not know
Uh,
that.
yeah, which is why insects are size limited. If you go to the museum and you see giant insects from several million years ago, the reason why they could get so big is because oxygen in the atmosphere used to be significantly purer. Uh, there's only like a 20%, less than 20% of the air is actually oxygen.
Oh shit!
The
So
rest
we
of it,
we destroyed this planet.
well, not even that. It's just naturally over time, the ratio settled
Oh, fair, true.
with the with the advent of life on the actual land of the planet, and convergent evolution of different bacteria and fungi acting as decomposers. So it's not that we destroyed the planet. That's just a natural cycle.
Right.
But the fact that the oxygen levels in the air are so low basically means an insect as big as Mothman is pretty much completely unviable.
Like it could
So
not exist. Yeah.
there's just simply not enough air in the atmosphere to sustain it. So avian Mothman is significantly more likely for me,
Mm-hmm.
at least from a biological standpoint. Although I really do like insectoid Mothman art and works of media. I think they're very
Oh, I
cool.
do too. Now that reminds me of another cryptid very similar to Mothman, but really quick, Ryan, I'm sorry to hear about that Venomous Fringe closed down, but I'm happy that you started a new podcast. So guys, check out a Whisper to a Scream cryptid podcast. Ryan's a really good guy, and yeah, let him know that I sent you. He's a good dude, ran a good podcast, and yeah, I want this one to work out for him. So check him out. A Whisper to a Scream cryptid podcast. Um, but what about? Have you ever heard of the Owl Man?
I think I have, at least in passing.
So
It's basically just like
an owl moth version of Mothman. it's essentially described like exactly the same except an owl.
Um,
But that one's only been cited in Cornwall, England.
yeah, I think that one is. Uh, yeah, I'm looking at it now. I feel like that one's a similar case of
Mm-hmm.
the evolution I described in Bird Like Mothman.
Right.
A, the, some kind of ancient precursor species, or maybe the same species, evolved to stand more upright and basically convergently evolved with humans in terms of body plan.
Mm-hmm.
Uh, so I think that one is pretty possible.
Like it's sort of like a Mothman subspecies or something.
Yeah, some kind of related sister clade.
That would be pretty cool.
Yeah.
Now, what about your second favorite dude? What about your Loveland frog? The little bipedal humanoid frog.
The Loveland frog is really interesting, but I'm not. So I suppose that a frog could theoretically, if given enough selective pressure and what's the word? And time, evolve to be bipedal. So I think that part is possible, if unlikely, just because of the way frog musculature works and the body plans of frogs.
They got those really strong legs, so it is a really strong possibility I can see happening.
Yeah, they have strong legs, but also their bodies are kind of flat and meant to be horizontal. So I guess it could work if there was enough time and evolution to change that. Because looking at uh, that classic picture, the one.
Where he's like crossing the street.
Yeah,
Mm-hmm.
I love that picture so much.
I do too.
It looks like the biology of the frog has changed significantly from what we would consider a normal frog. But that is possible through enough time. I'm talking like thousands, hundreds of thousands of years. That would be a slow process. Now, I think size would be, again, a limiting factor here. Simply because I'm not super familiar with frog biology.
I'm not either. I've never owned a frog. I've seen a lot of frogs. I've eaten frog legs, but I don't know about frog biology.
Yeah, so frogs do have lungs, but they also undergo gas exchange through their skin.
Like insects do?
Well, sort of. So insects have holes in their carapace, specifically designed to let in air and remove carbon dioxide and side products of respiration. Frogs breathe directly through their skin. They have to be wet to do it, but yeah.
We'll get to that one really quick, Ryan. That's actually really cool. Um, he said that in the area that the lizard man was seen, they found fossil records of a 9-foot bipedal crocodile, and he thinks that maybe the lizard man could have evolved from that.
Oh yeah, that's definitely possible. I think it's a really interesting proposal.
God, I want a 9-foot bipedal crocodile.
So, I mean, there are pretty big amphibians. Like the Japanese giant salamander can grow to be about 6 feet tall.
And then like frog and toad wise, I'd say the cane toad's pretty massive.
Yeah, there's frogs that are about
Uh,
Amphibian body size limits.
wasn't there
Let
that?
me skim
Isn't there
that.
that African bullfrog as well? That's pretty big.
I think it's about fist size. Maybe like I think it's about like the right size for a grown man to cup in both hands.
Hmm.
Um,
There was a massive frog. I just can't remember what that was.
are you thinking about the Goliath frog?
Goliath. That's it. Yeah.
Yeah, it gets to be about 33 centimeters, which is, as far as I remember, about 2 feet big.
It's about the size of like a little baby. So.
Yeah, 33 centimeters. It was about a foot big, 13 inches. So, um, okay, so it looks like I just skimmed an academic paper. It looks like there really is no upper limit to like limiting factor for frog and amphibian like upper size, but they tend to be on the
Hmm.
smaller side, and it's not really understood why yet.
Hmm.
But considering that there are amphibians like the giant salamander that are so big,
Right.
I think it is possible for the Loveland frog to be as big as it is. So,
Hmm.
Loveland frog is another case of unlikely but possible. Um, I find its upright nature to be more of a not a deal breaker, but more suspect than the size.
So if the Loveland frog was to exist, where could you see how could you see it evolving in the future?
Um, so that's an interesting question. Frogs
Oh, James asked a
are
question really quick. He said, "Do frogs hibernate like alligators in the winter?" I know some do.
yeah, a lot of them tend to go into stasis at the bottom of ponds and stuff. They get frozen, and then because of their biological properties, frogs are actually really interesting
Yeah,
though.
there's that one that
But
literally gets frozen and then dethaws and comes out.
yeah, basically, a lot of frogs do that, especially if they live in. Well, there's frogs that live in deserts, frogs that live in
Hmm.
tropical areas, but frogs that live in areas with winters that get cold enough to freeze, they do tend to hibernate,
There, we
or at
do
least go into stasis.
we do have those really cool frogs, the Wolverine frogs that literally push their bones through their fingers and make claws.
Yeah, frog evolution is super neat.
It's
Um,
crazy.
it's very interesting. As for what I think will happen to the Loveland frog in the future, um, well, frogs are currently very threatened globally because of uh, certain sensitivities to air pollution, water pollution, and temperature. Um, there are tons of species of frogs that are endangered or going extinct.
Hmm.
Um, and with a species as big as the Loveland frog, I'm willing to bet that it probably requires a very stable environment. Big species like that tend to reproduce very slowly and therefore have a bit of a uh, big species tend to be less adaptive to immediate change.
Hmm.
Um, like bears reproduce, they have one cub every couple years, right?
Right.
Um, so that means the allele frequency in the genetic population changes much slower than like mice, which are continually pumping out babies. So mice tend to be quicker to adapt than bears do, and that makes sense given their life cycles. But with a species like the Loveland frog, which is so big and so specialized, the global warming and pollution would probably make it very difficult for it to continue to exist in the coming years.
So it would most
So
likely go extinct if it exists.
Yeah, pretty
That's
much.
fair. Now it does have like now there is like an aquatic kind of frog creature called the Canvey Island swamp monster. It has no arms, it's pink, has two webbed feet, and has gills. What about something kind of like that?
Let me look it up. Canvey. How do you spell Canvey?
Canvey.
Okay. Yeah, there it is. Oh, that's interesting. It um it looks like it's probably some kind of deep sea creature that got fished up and then how big is it? Do you know?
I'll have to check. I think it's like probably about like 2, 3 feet tall.
The 1953 specimen was uh, described as being 2.4 feet long,
Okay,
and the
so it was close.
1954 specimen was described as being 4 feet long. Okay, so this thing is quite big. Um, that's interesting.
Yeah, Ryan in the chat says that it could be like maybe like a type of like anglerfish, since like some of those have like those feet that they use to walk.
Yeah. I was gonna say something similar. I think it's probably some kind of deep sea species that got fished up.
Mm-hmm.
Because deep sea species, especially like from way down deep, tend to deform significantly once they're brought to the surface, just because of the change in pressure. So like the blobfish looks like pretty much a normal fish,
And then you bring them on
but when it's
land,
on when you bring it up to the surface, the difference in pressure causes significant deformation.
it just
I
deflates
think
and sags. Yeah.
I think the Canby Island monster is probably some kind of a similar case of
Mm-hmm.
a deep sea creature.
And
Um,
and yeah, Ryan, that's always how it goes too. Like either the remains go missing or the remains go missing or get destroyed somehow. That's always how it goes.
yeah, it's real convenient.
Mm-hmm. Ooh, so what about the probably the one of the arguably the most famous cryptids? What about Bigfoot?
Oh, Bigfoot is actually really likely to me as a
Because
biologist.
there's all those different
Evolutionarily,
species all over the world, allegedly, of the different
yeah,
subspecies of Bigfoot.
yeah. I think that's
Hmm
a very good point in its favor. I think Bigfoot is probably some
hmm
kind of greater primate.
Like we got the
Uh,
Yowie in Australia, we got the Yeren in China, we got the Yeti in the Himalayas, and we got Bigfoot, Sasquatch in the North America, Canada, and the U.S.
yeah, I think Bigfoot is probably some kind of large primate who convergently evolved with us to have a similar upright
Hmm
walking pattern. But I think the hair is also a very interesting
Oh,
uh,
absolutely.
mark that it's probably some kind of a primate or
Because
ape.
some of them are like you get described like they're covered in hair. Some of them have like hair like on certain parts of their bodies, like not on their hands, feet, or face, but some of them are just like covered in it.
I think that's probably some kind of an evolutionary
Hmm
adaptation. Like the Yowie is generally described as being completely covered in hair.
Right.
Uh, Not the Yowie. The Yeti is generally described as being completely covered in hair, and
Which
that
makes
makes sense.
sense because it
Um,
lives in the cold climate.
yeah, the Sasquatch is also from the pretty chilly Pacific Northwest,
Hmm
so it again makes sense for there to be a significant presence of hair. Whereas Sasquatch sightings in cooler or warmer and more temperate areas
hmm
tend to be similarly more not hairless, but they tend to have hair in specific areas rather than
Or
all
like
over.
or like thinner hair as well.
Yeah,
Because like the Yeti and the Sasquatch are typically described as being like having like really like I almost said I mixed up thick and coarse and I almost said thork. Uh, thick and
yeah,
thick coarse fur all over their body.
yeah, and that's pretty par for the course with very
Hmm
cold weather animals. Like if you look at um, reindeer,
hmm
oxen
Mhm.
from the far north,
Then if you look at like other
yaks.
creatures like the billy ape that was recently discovered, which is sort of like a giant species of chimpanzee, that does have hair, but it's just like really thin hair.
Yeah, and it's pretty common that stuff like that is likely. And primates are very well dispersed, pretty much all over the planet.
Mm-hmm.
So it's also reasonable there that
Mm-hmm.
all of the Sasquatch species or
Mm-hmm.
groups are probably descended from one common ancestor, and then slowly emigrated
Mm-hmm.
around and adapted to their current
Mm-hmm.
environments.
Now with
So
Bigfoot,
I think the Sasquatch.
oh, go ahead.
Oh, sorry.
Go ahead.
I was just going to say, I think the Sasquatch is one of the more likely, plausible species.
I agree. Um, what do you think about the whole Gigantopithecus theory? Could Bigfoot be related to the Gigantopithecus in some way, like distant ancestor or
Yeah, I think it's very possible that it's some kind of an ancestor or precursor species.
because
The
I
Nephilim crowd.
the Nephilim. Oh, the Nephilim crowd. That so there are people out there that believe that Bigfoot is Nephilim, which in the Bible it's like the unholy union between humans and angels, and they created giants essentially.
That's an interesting theory. I'm not really sure how scientific it is or what it's really based on, aside from the commonality of size. But
We get like the people that believe like Bigfoot's like some alien or like works alongside Jesus and or like has psychic powers that can like manipulate people's minds and stuff.
yeah, that's funny.
Oh, there's
Uh,
something called a Dryopithecus. It's more likely it's an opportunistic feeder. I think I've heard, let me look up Dryopithecus.
yeah, that's also a possibility. Without DNA evidence, it's really hard to determine that. Especially like you can't really nowadays place something into a genus or anything without
Oh, yep.
DNA analysis, at least a
Um
little bit. But the Dryopithecus looks like it would be another very valid possible
mhm.
uh, precursor species to or ancestor to Bigfoot or Sasquatch.
Oh,
Yeah, I'm
absolutely.
looking it up right now.
And then you see the like things like the skunk ape. That one looks more like an orangutan than like most other Bigfoot sightings. They could all have like some common ancestor, but could have like evolved from like some different ape.
Yeah, it's very possible. Convergent evolution is a phenomenon, and it's we see stuff like that. Um, certain traits do
Mhm.
arise repeatedly in different lineages.
What do I
Um,
think of the Gable film that they featured on History Channel's Monster Quest? The
um,
Gable
I'm
film. Hold on, let me
unfamiliar with it.
um the Gable
If you have a link,
film.
you can shoot it our way. But
Yeah, oh wait, the Gable film. That's the Dogman one, right? I believe that is the Dogman film. Now, Dogman, that's another interesting one that we can talk about as well.
give me just a sec to watch this game.
All right. Yeah, no, I don't, it's been a while since I've seen that one as well. Hold on. Yeah, no, yeah, that is the Dogman film. Okay. Oh, okay. This I've seen this before. Okay, so the comments seem pretty mixed on this, I will admit. The maker of the video allegedly did confess that this was a hoax. However, if it, I have to do some more research on it. I just can't take people's word off the internet for 100% fact. But um, that's an interesting clip, though. I mean, okay, very interesting. Oops, let me call him back. I think. Okay, there we go.
Yep.
Um, yeah, the comment section seems very, very mixed on this.
So it looks like the creators of the Gable film said it was a hoax, but that's pretty common. It, I mean, to me, it just looked like a person wearing some kind of costume, but I don't know
Hmm.
how compelling that is.
Yeah, no,
Uh,
it's if it is truly a fake, according to what the comments say, like I said, I'll have to do more research on it, but it, but if it is a fake, it's a good fake, I'll admit.
yeah, it definitely looks good. The costume is, or the creature pictured in the videos is quite interesting. It looks like some kind of,
Mhm.
I wouldn't say it looks particularly humanoid. It looks like some kind of,
Giant
um,
dog, yeah.
yeah. I'm unclear why it's called the Dog Man. Um,
Hmm. Oh, I was gonna ask you while we're on the topic of the Gable film, what did you think? What do you think of the Patterson Gimlin footage of the Bigfoot, the original Bigfoot? That
yeah, okay. I think it's pretty good.
I
I
think it's
mean,
legit, honestly.
yeah, I mean, I think that there's something to it. At least, I mean, even if it is a hoax, I think it's pretty compelling as to how a creature like that might, behave or move.
Right.
But I think it does look pretty good.
Hmm.
As for the canine teeth at the end of the film, um, I don't. I mean, you can make just half a dog's jaw with a resin and clay. Like it's possible to sculpt that kind of thing, or buy it from like a film prop sort of producer. So I'm not. I think it looks good. It looks pretty realistically canine, but that's also not necessarily an indicator.
Yeah, I'll have to do some more research into in myself because I'm not sure. The comments say that the creators of the film admitted it was fake. It's just YouTube comments, and in the comments on YouTube, you can say anything you want, essentially within reason, of course. But I'll,
Yeah, that's true.
so I'll have to look into it. But for what it is, it's a pretty good clip, regardless of whether it's real or fake. I like it. You get because
Yeah, it's very interesting.
you get people saying in the comments as well that they were saying that the CIA had them cover it up or something, which I mean, UFO cases you kind of see that a lot. So I don't know. Anything's really possible. So I'll have to I'll do a deep dive into it at some point. Tomorrow is Cryptocast footage review, so that might be tomorrow's footage review.
Yeah.
That's gonna be a fun one.
Yeah, that will be.
So what do you think about the Dogman itself then? Like as a um
I think
yeah,
it
speculative
looks like
creature.
a very large cold weather species of canine.
Hmm.
At least to me.
And a lot of people say
Um,
that the Dogman is bipedal as well.
like you think it could, um, like it could get up on two legs.
Yeah, like almost like a werewolf in a way. Like it can stand up on two legs. And we've kind of seen that with like dogs that like don't have access, like that don't have their front paws or front legs anymore. They've learned to walk on their back legs and are able to get around just by doing that.
Yeah, it's pretty impractical though, and pretty unstable. They can't move as quickly, so um,
I mean, like I can see him
yeah,
like standing up to kind of like get a look around, like look around and
yeah. Canine back legs are not really designed to put to have full support of like a human like a full body weight, but it's definitely possible. So
Mhm. The ability to walk bipedal is an adaptation. Yeah, that's actually kind of a good point actually
yeah, that
too.
makes sense. Like dogs can walk on two legs for a short period of time, so I believe it.
Yeah,
Um,
like I
the
can't like
size of the
right. And like but Rhys said like
organism.
he can't see him like running extremely fast on those hind legs by itself.
Yeah, yeah, that's what I'm saying. I think it's definitely possible that they could function bipedally for short periods of time, but I don't think they can move particularly fast that way. And
Kind of like bears for
uh,
instance.
yeah, very similar to bears. Very good analogy. Um, the other thing that kind of bothers me about the organism pictured in the film is that it, its size is kind of ambiguous, but it definitely looked rather large. I would estimate at least 1.8 meters. Significantly big. Uh, but in cold climes, like the one pictured in the film, because that was definitely some kind of a snowy
Because he
environment.
was definitely on some
I
like
don't know
jet
where the
ski.
yeah. Uh, there was definitely some kind of uh, uh, cold environment. And in
Hmm.
general, large creatures don't really function well in the cold. You want to be small and round to maximize heat, to minimize heat loss and maximize uh, warmth. So
And it looked like it had a big bulky fur coat as well.
yeah, that's true. But
Is it
it
possible that the
definitely does
Dogman
look.
is it possible that the Dogman is the evolved form of the dire wolf?
Um, I mean, it's possible. They could share a common ancestor, or they could, or the Dogman could have evolved from uh, the dire wolf, but the dire wolf was about the same size as modern gray wolves. So I don't know. It's possible, but like I said, without DNA evidence, it's really difficult to call these sorts of things.
Hmm.
Um, like DNA analysis is the bread and butter of evolutionary biology, and without real DNA evidence, it's very difficult to sort of make these sorts of judgments. But just from a cursory sort of appearance, it looks like it's possible. Um, canines all share a common ancestor, but the dire wolf and the
Hmm.
dogman might be
Hmm.
relatively closely related.
And also too, it does seem like people have been seeing these humanoid dog-like creatures for like thousands and thousands of years. Because in hieroglyphs on Egyptian tombs, we see Anubis, who is depicted as a human with a jackal head. There we get counts of the cynocephaly, who are like they in Greek mythology they were um people, but with that they were like humanoid dogs who were very, very, very ferocious as well. So um
Yeah, I mean it's definitely possible. I mean, there's a ton of weird organisms on Earth.
oh yeah,
I'm
myself
just not
included, I'm a
really.
weird organism.
You certainly are.
I am.
But just from appearances, I don't think the Dogman is very viable evolutionarily, just because of its size in a. I mean, being an apex predator doesn't really mean anything because direwolves went extinct during a large extinction event. Being an apex predator is great and all, but you're dependent on the rest of the food chain to support you. And without that food chain being present, it doesn't matter how big your teeth are or how strong you are.
That's
You will
sort
go
of
extinct.
that's sort of like with the T-Rex at the end of the Cretaceous period. Like all its prey died off, and then it ate what it could, and then with nothing else to eat, it died.
Yeah, although there is currently some fossil evidence to suggest that T-Rexes were scavengers, actually, which is a really interesting
Oh, kind of like
possibility.
vultures.
Yeah.
I did not know that. That's really neat.
Yeah, it's very interesting. Uh, but yeah, I mean, there's a possibility of some kind of connection between the direwolf and the dogman that it's really difficult to call or tell without some kind of DNA evidence or even morphologically, like just a deep analysis. Because sometimes you can, if they have a very specific adaptation, there can be a similar. You can pretty much, see who's related very closely to whom. If you can generally kind of puzzle out when the trait arose and in what lineage, but without more information on the dogman, it's really difficult to make some kind of claim about that.
I agree. So how would you I'm curious about how would you classify like the more alien cryptids, like the Dover Demon, the Fresno Nightcrawlers, the Flatwoods Monster into this whole speculative evolution?
I
Because
think it's very possible that they just evolved on different planets, and that's indicative of their very unique appearances.
right.
I love aliens. I think they're very plausible. My university offers a course on alien biology. It's speculative biology in the cosmos, and it looks really fun.
Yo, fuck it. I'm not going to my college anymore. I'm going to yours.
We're talking about biology and different forms of evolution.
Just man, how are you? Oh, I like your Chef Boyardee ravioli picture. God, I haven't had that shit in ages. All right,
damn, I could go for some Chef Boyardee
speculative
ravioli.
evolution on Chef Boyardee himself. Okay.
Chef Boyardee is an apex predator who's evolved to have a bite strength of 1,500 pounds per square inch.
His chef hat fused to his body over time. He's able to pick up sound waves with that thing. It jiggles when it hears sound.
Oh, that's cursed. I hate that.
I think you have a new art project now.
Yeah, I think that's my new thesis.
Draw Chef Boyardee as an apex predator. He has forward-facing eyes now as well.
I mean, he does have forward-facing eyes.
Oh
so.
shit, that's right. Oh hey, Bleach, how are you? Um, what? But what? Okay, so now what about like some more? But what about like a fictional creature? Like I love these guys, so I'm gonna use them as an example. Like what would you say about like a Furby, for instance?
Um, Furbies are very interesting because their fur implies mammalian. Their forward-facing eyes imply some kind of a predator. But their beak is generally not a mammalian trait. But I would generally classify Furbies as mammals.
I would too.
Very weird ones. Just because there are mammals with beaks like platypi.
Yeah. Echidnas as
Um,
well.
do echidnas have beaks? Yeah, Furby's bright colors does imply some kind of poisonous aspect to their biology. Um,
Yo, catch me out here like writing like a horror story about like fucking predator Furbies.
listen, their forward-facing eyes and small ears compared to their body weight do imply that they're some kind of predator.
Yo, I love that.
So, I mean, I could do more analysis, but
It's the
I don't know how in depth you want me to go on
it's the
this.
unevolved form of a gremlin. What about
I believe it.
so what about Nessie? Like there's so many like variations of the Loch Ness monster like all over the world. Like Canada's got Ogopogo. We have Tahoe Tessie, we have Pressy in Lake
Isn't there also
Superior.
a Nessie in Lake Champlain?
Yeah, that's Champ. Um, yeah, there's like so many variations of them. So what would you have to say about that? Do you think it could be like a sturgeon, like everybody says, that just maybe evolves to fit its habitat? Do you think it's a plesiosaur? What do you think Nessie is?
I don't think it's plesiosaur,
Oh,
which
rip.
sucks because I think that would be really cool. But there's simply in most of those lakes, there's simply not enough prey, and especially not prey large enough to sustain a predator of that size. Um, Large organisms like that require massive amounts of food, especially if they're meat eaters.
Mm-hmm.
Um, they require just huge amounts of food, and I don't think there's enough.
Now, what about the theory that like the that Loch Ness is like some has like underground tunnels that lead out to the oceans?
Um, I mean, it's possible, and it would make things a little more likely. But even then, if you go out to the ocean, if Nessie is some kind of a lake creature, and the Loch Ness, I don't think is that deep.
It's not. No, it's not incredibly deep.
Yeah, it's only about 800 feet deep. Uh, at its deepest point. So I don't. So that would imply Nessie is some kind of shallow water creature, or at least relatively shallow.
Nessie's a crab.
Nessie is also a gremlin. Uh, so if it went out to sea, it would still have to, deal with, relatively shallow water prey, which also tend to be relatively small.
Nessie's a
There are really big sea organisms like the colossal or gigantic squids, but
and the megamouth shark and the whale shark and
yeah, but the whale sharks are filter feeders,
they eat plankton.
and
Yeah,
whales also tend to be filter feeders in general.
Nessie's a crab confirmed. Just a giant crab.
Nessie, Nessie is a crab. So I don't think Nessie is particularly likely or plausible, just because it's so big, or like it's generally depicted as being very large, and that's just really unsustainable in modern ecosystems. Like that's what my other pet peeve is with people who are like, what if there's megalodons still out there? Like, there's just not prey big enough um, to sustain something like that.
Not even giant squids or whales.
I mean, yeah, but there's so few of them, and
Right.
especially they live in very diverse areas. Giant squids and colossal squids tend to be in subarctic areas, whereas whales and things tend to be in more varied areas, but they also tend to be in more mobile. So the megalodon just seems very unlikely to me, biologically speaking, just because again, there's just not enough prey, especially large prey, to sustain it.
All right, now I thought of something. I went over to look at this, like some. I still have some Halloween decorations on my floor. I've been meaning to put up, and I have like this spider decoration, and it reminded me there's a giant spider that's found in the Congo known as Jabothofi, and that kind of reminds you like the whole Mothman situation we talked about. So, what are the possibilities that like a massive spider could exist? Like probably about like the size of these things are reported to be like about the size of probably a little bit like slightly smaller than Aragog from Harry Potter.
That one is also spiders and arachnids um, have gas exchange similar to insects, where they basically directly take air through holes in their body. Um,
So that would be much
so
smaller then
that one's
too.
also, yeah. There's
Hmm.
just not enough oxygen in the atmosphere to sustain something that big.
Ooh, well, we did just talk about giant frogs bleach, but there.
Yeah, we did.
But in the Congo, there are big frogs in the Congo. What about the Mokelium bembe that he's talking about, the dinosaur that lives in the Congo?
Um, I can't familiar with it.
It's essentially just a long neck dinosaur that
Yeah,
that attacks
that's.
hippos.
I think that one is more plausible. If only just because uh, there's more biomass in the form of plants. So I think it's more sustainable for a large or very large herbivore. But I think that if something like that is existing, in the Congo, like just currently, um, then I think that it's very unlikely that we haven't found it so far, especially considering like um, there's been no real like a lot of people believe that the Mokele Mbembe like died out or stuff like that. So while I think that one is more plausible than very large carnivores, um, I do think it is relatively unlikely that something that big could go hidden or unknown to science for as long as it has.
Ooh, now I actually got a cool one for you. Mixing a little bit of plants in there. There have been reports of like in like some tropical forests and stuff like reports of like carnivorous trees that like tangle up their prey and like drain their blood.
That one is actually pretty interesting. Um, I'm a plant biologist by trade, so I will tend to be a bit more qualified on questions like this. So, carnivorous plants eat prey because there's not enough nitrogen in the ground to sustain their body mass.
Like how the Venus
So, carnivorous,
flytrap and pitcher plants they eat bugs and anything else small that gets in there.
yeah, pitcher plants, fly traps, all of that, they eat bugs and small organisms because they can't get nitrogen in any other way. Um, for a creature like for a tree to intentionally snare prey and then drain its blood, I think that is possible, but only if it was doing it for like um, the nutrients in the blood. I it's kind of an interesting
Hmm.
proposition because in blood is overwhelmingly made up of water. You got dispersed sugars and chemicals,
Hmm.
neurotransmitters and the like. But you also have a very significant presence of iron because that's what oxygen hishes off of for gas exchange.
So it would be a
So it's
lot of the
very
things
possible,
that plants want.
pretty much. So
God, no, all I can think
it's
about is
it's
feed me, Seymour.
it's pretty unlikely, but relatively plausible that a
hmm
plant could be in an environment with low iron, or have be stuck in the dark, so it can't produce sugars as efficiently as it would like to. So it captures prey to take blood sugar and iron, the water and the nutrients in the blood. So I think that one is a little more likely.
What are your thoughts on the reports that they have found fully intact mammoths? That one is pretty cool. So, mammoths, like they've mostly found all those intact mammoths, like really like frozen in ice, essentially, which really preserve them very, very well. So I think that is very, very neat. They've done that with like they found like some cave dogs, some cave lions as well, and some other ice age creatures as well, that have just been
Yeah,
preserved
it's
like
super neat.
beautifully.
Um,
Like they look like
I
they're sleeping. Some of them that they're so lifelike.
Yeah, I think that's really neat, and it's very exciting for scientists to be able to, try to recover some DNA and analyze it,
And
as well as um,
reviving the
more
species.
immediately. Um, yeah, be able to get a more immediate and scientific analysis of mammoth anatomy. I think that's very cool, and I'm super excited about it.
hmm
Um,
Do you think it would be wise to bring mammoths
Generally,
back though from extinction?
I don't think that's a good idea. I don't think bringing anything back from extinction is a good idea unless it's gone extinct within the past, 50, 60 years, maybe 100 years.
So like passenger
Just because if
pigeons, thylacines, those guys would be all right to come back.
yeah, but if you bring back something that's been extinct for, thousands or hundreds of years, um, it's very likely that that will cause a significant disruption to the food chain. Um, and I think that's just very
They, they,
it's just not a good idea. I think the idea of cloning is really cool, and genetic analysis and
hmm
genetic engineering is also
hmm
super neat, and I'm a little in love with it. But
hmm
I don't think it's a good idea to
hmm
bring back extinct species and then reintroduce them into where they would have lived during their life, because not only has um, the ecosystem changed, the environment's changed, and it's likely that the species will go extinct again just because of ambient conditions. Their preferred food might not be around anymore, or might be still around but different enough that it can no longer recognize it, or the temperature, the humidity, etc., has changed enough that it's just no longer viable in that area.
Or it'll just be
So I
another
think,
Jurassic Park situation.
yeah, Jurassic Park is just not really.
It's not.
It's not
No.
even. Yeah.
They
I
found a
have not heard
pterodactyl in
about
Canada.
the pterodactyl they found in Canada.
I have not either. Oh, but what do you think about the new? I did the video about it. What do you think about the new sugar gliders that they found in Australia after the bushfires?
I think it's really cool. I think we probably only found them because the bushfire disturbed their habitats enough that they changed their natural behaviors. And I think it's pretty neat that something good at least came out of the
hmm
fire.
Now, since
Um,
they had to change their like behaviors and stuff, do you think that's possible that they could be like on a path for like a new kind of like evolution over time?
yeah, I mean, it's definitely possible. I mean, it's really difficult to predict these things in general, just because you have to take into account changes year by year by year
hmm
over a whole population. So
I've
it's definitely possible that because of the fires, a whole new kind of evolution will be taking place in Australia, and I'm sure there's a ton of scientists checking in on it.
hmm
But
I've heard there's been
It's very difficult to say where that's going.
I've heard there have been signs of Tasmanian tigers in Australia. That is one that I believe that could still be alive because those were around when people were around, like in the 1900s.
Yeah, I think that's possible. We drove those extinct through hunting, exploitation, and habitat loss. So I think it is definitely possible that they could still be
Mhm.
around. I think that one's way more plausible than like Nessie.
Like the ivory-billed woodpecker, people kept hunting that, and then now people are still seeing them to this day. That like there's a small population that survived.
Yeah, you
Mm.
know, there's a cryptid population of moose in New Zealand.
Is there really?
Yeah, so they were released in like the 70s, I think, like 5 or 6 moose, and there is like everybody, like nobody could find them again. So everybody assumed they'd just like been hunted or killed or whatever or died off. But they found more DNA in 2005, and then again I think in like 2012. Um, so it's presumed that they're mostly aquatic.
Oh my
And
god.
moose can dive and swim really well. It's really weird. And one of the most common predators of moose are orca whales. But yeah, New Zealand has a cryptid moose population. It's really funny.
Yo, that's crazy. I know like in Australia, rabbits weren't even natural until they released a pair of them there, and then they just started breeding like fucking crazy.
Yeah.
Yeah, supposedly last thylacine died in captivity in 1939 or 1940. Yeah, that was a sad time. So I do hope that they can bring the thylacine back to life if it's not already alive, and if it's still alive, I hope they can kind of find a way to preserve the species and bring it back.
Yeah, I think that would be
Because that was
a
one of the only
huge jump.
that was like one of the only like carnivorous marsupials, wasn't it?
I thought the thylacine was a uh,
I thought it was. I
I thought
thought
it
it.
was some kind of a canine.
I
Oh
thought.
yeah, it is a marsupial. Huh.
Hmm.
Uh,
It's a dog like marsupial.
yeah, very interesting.
Now, what about things like the quagga and the great auk and the dodo bird?
Um, we have a huge variety of birds on Earth, and it's estimated that there are like 6 to 8 thousand species of birds that we still just don't know anything about.
Oh, really?
We don't even know. Yeah, so I think it's possible that there are species like that.
The
Of relative varying plausibility, just due to some of the more outlandish claims made about them. But I think that one is more plausible.
no, let's see. I'm trying to think of. Oh, what? No, these ones aren't really real. Those jackalopes are a hoax. Granted, I would love them to be real. Uh, so let's see. About some of the we talked about some more of the mammalian ones. We talked about some of the avian ones. We talked about insect ones, amphibian ones. We talked about essentially a good amount of them. What about some of the like aquatic ones, like the like more fish-like?
You know,
Like I'm trying to think of
um,
something that's like a fish cryptid. I just can't think of one off the top of my head right at the moment.
yeah, I think that one's possible. Just because we found the coelacanth back in the 70s
Oh, I love that
after
little
presuming
dude.
it extinct, like presuming that it had been extinct for millions of years. So I think it's very possible that there are fish species we just don't know anything about because we don't explore the ocean as much as we really should or could.
Like allegedly, I've heard we know more about space than we do about our own ocean.
I've heard the same thing, and I don't know that I can vouch for that, but
Right.
I would believe it just because it's very difficult, expensive to have like deep water ventures. So a lot of the discoveries we make in the ocean tend to be by accident.
And the pressure is just so deep, like so heavy as well.
Yeah, it's just very difficult to have like real analysis or uh, you know um, ventures down into the deep just because it's very expensive and dangerous.
Mm-hmm.
But I think fish like cryptids are pretty plausible, if not more plausible than most others.
What about some of the more humanoid cryptids that look like elves, fairies, brownies, like little like the fae essentially. What about them?
Um,
Like like they have the same
Convergent
intelligence,
evolution.
if not higher than a human, but they're just smaller.
Yeah, I think those are pretty unplausible just because like convergent evolution can explain a lot, but it can't explain something being essentially the same as a human but smaller.
Mm-hmm.
So I think that one is pretty unlikely. Also because most of them tend to have magic powers. Um, that's not to say that I don't. I think there's like the people who believe in fairies or the Fae are stupid because personally I really love them. I think Fae stories are very interesting.
They're neat.
But I think they tend to be more of a pre-scientific explanation for things rather than organisms that exist or have existed.
What about like cephalopod and mollusks? Like what like the giant squid that was just proven like probably within like the last decade to be a real thing. What about others like that, like a giant octopus? Well, we found the Dumbo octopus in the ocean recently as well.
Yeah, I think that one's very plausible. And as for mollusks, nudibranchs, sea slugs are such a diverse group that I would genuinely believe that um, you could tell me that a mollusk is real, and I'd be like a marine gastropod mollusk, like a
Didn't
nudibranch or a sea slug. You could tell me that it's real and and have pretty much any property, and I'd be like, yep, all right, sounds legit.
didn't we just find out about
See,
the blue dragon nudibranch as well?
um, I think we've known about it for a while, but yeah, there is one that's very similar to that. It's super interesting.
Mm-hmm.
There are species of nudibranchs that um, they are largely algae eaters, and they eat so much algae that they steal the chloroplasts from the algae and photosynthesize. It's
Ooh,
really, really cool.
I like that. That's
There's
really
Alicia.
neat.
I know two species that can do that. There's Alicia chlorotica and Costiacelia kuroshime. And there's also other species that can do just absolutely crazy stuff. Some of them are extremely poisonous. Some of them have just the most interesting properties. A lot of them are bioelectric or have bioluminescence, and that's really cool too.
Oh, sure. That's actually a good question, James. What about like he wants to know about creatures from mythology like unicorns, dragons, centaurs, minotaurs, etc.
Um, I think the ones that are part human are pretty much out. I think that's pretty unplausible
I feel like the
scientifically.
unicorn could be possible though.
The unicorn does sound possible. Like if there was an extinct subspecies of horse with some kind of a bone growth that was used for fighting or mating purposes, I think that's
Mm-hmm.
pretty plausible.
Or like
Um,
horses lived in this area that like they had like a bunch of natural predators and they needed like a way to defend themselves, and like over time they just developed like a giant like bone on their head that they used as a horn.
yeah, I think that's definitely possible. I think unicorns are relatively plausible. Dragons, um, I have mixed feelings about dragons because, like, from a body plan standpoint, minus the wings, Dragons are pretty much just lizards, and that's obviously lizards exist. Lizards are real. I don't
Mm-hmm.
think anybody's arguing that one. So I think dragons are relatively plausible depending on their size,
What about
and
like a
also the presence or absence of wings.
what about like a hydra?
Um,
Because I know in
that's
biology,
interesting.
animals they can grow like more than one head. Like you've seen like two-headed snakes, two-headed goats, pigs, sheep, cows, etc.
Yeah, it tends to be a pretty unbeneficial
Mm-hmm.
trait, but I suppose that if it arose early enough in the genetic history of Earth and then developed relatively slowly, like I guess hydras are plausible. Like I said, again, depending on size.
Right. But I don't think it would have like that many heads though, like as they
No,
describe.
I think two or three would probably be the maximum.
Hmm. Now, kind of piggybacking off the unicorn, what about the other horse creature mythology, the Pegasus, a horse with wings?
Um, like evolutionarily speaking, wings have arisen in several different lineages at different times. Like bird wings, bat wings, and insect wings all arose at different times and in different lineages. They don't come from a shared common ancestor,
Mhm.
so it is possible.
I know
However, uh, I don't think that they would be just like on the back, and I don't think that they would be like bird
functioning.
wings. I think they would probably be replace the forelegs of the horse, and I think they would probably be more bat-like.
Ooh, that's kind of scary. Like a bat, like kind of like I guess kind of like Jersey Devilish.
Yeah, a little Jersey Devilish.
Ooh, bipedal,
But I don't think
bat-like
the way
horse. Ooh,
Pegasi are like classically depicted is very plausible.
what a now? Isn't there like that sort of like can't I no wait, it wasn't rabbits, it was cats. I know there have been cats that have like developed wings as well,
I haven't heard about that.
or like hold on, let me see if I can find the link. Or cats with wings, like there's like a cat that grew like some wings or something. It's really weird.
Oh, I see it. It looks like those are just some kind of bone or spine growth.
That's what
It
it is, but it I think let me see.
I think giving given enough uh, uh, selective pressure and time for development, I think that's relatively plausible.
To get a cat to get like eventually for all cats to look like that at some point.
I don't think all cats. I think it would probably split off and become a different species.
Okay. Let's see. It has a genetic mutation. It's like skin growths on it that look like wings.
Yeah. So yeah, I think it's possible, but those aren't really. There's no musculature there, and it doesn't really seem to provide any kind of
Benefit to the cat.
benefit. But assuming the skin growths like arose under their arms and connected to their arms, that could be a very interesting look into how like sugar gliders and gliding mammals developed
Oh,
there.
that would be cool, a gliding cat.
Yeah.
God, I want my own sky cat now. Um, let's see. Um, I'm trying to think of something else. I'm kind of running out of ideas at the moment. What about like is it possible? an ancestor of the giant bear could still be alive in today's time, like a cave bear?
Um, Again, that's just another very large predator. I've explained a couple times my my views on large predators and their viability
Mm-hmm.
in current ecosystems.
Now, I just thought of one exception to this case, though, that might help your case with the giant bear, James. Do you remember Hogzilla? There was like this hunter that that like shot like a massive, massive, massive wild boar, a while back, but it was just like some sort of like giant like megafauna sized pig. Um, I was gonna ask about like microorganisms as well, like bacteria, plankton, algae.
What about it?
Can would that be able like? Do you think there's like some that we don't know about as well, like types of plankton and algae and
Oh yeah, absolutely. New types of plants and algae are discovered all the time, and it's great. It's really exciting.
same with bacteria, I guess too, and germs and diseases and
Yeah, definitely. It's definitely new. Um, like new species are being discovered all the time, just because we haven't explored a lot of places.
let's see. We talked about microorganisms. Um, do you think so I know bats are essentially winged rodents. Um, do you think other organisms can go down like the same path as bats or like sort of like in the like opposite direction as well? Like
I mean, I think it's possible. So essentially, um, for something to become like a trait in a species, first it has to arise via mutation, and then it has to be beneficial enough that the organism with the trait survives and reproduces more than other organisms without the trait.
okay.
Um, so it's definitely possible that similar batwings can arise in other species, or bats could evolve to not have wings anymore.
Right.
But I think the trait would have to evolve first, and then it would have to be, the trait would have to arise first, and then it would have to be beneficial enough that the organism was able to reproduce more than other species.
Okay. All right. Now I got to ask this too for all the people out there that are kind of like thinking like throughout this series Pokemon cuz every time you hear the word evolution like one of the first things you think about for people that like it is Pokemon. Um I guess how would like Pokemon hold up into this, I guess? Would like they like is it possible for like a mouse to end up being like Pikachu in any way or
I mean, some Pokemon are more viable than others. Like um, normal types, obviously, tend to be significantly more
like Tauros is just
miserable
a
than.
bull with three tails?
Yeah, like that's definitely possible. Like that's something you could definitely selectively breed for if you raise cattle.
Mhm.
Um,
But you can't get a horse with a fire mane like Rapidash.
yeah, obviously.
Or a mouse
Uh,
that has electricity stored inside of it.
that I mean, the electricity one is a bit more plausible because there are animals with bioelectricity,
Oh, right, like the
like
electric eel, yeah.
but that tends to be more efficient when you're doing it in water because water is a much better conductor than air is. So it's
Mhm.
possible, but it probably wouldn't be that effective unless it was
Mhm.
really, really strong.
Now another thing I can kind of see coming into play here is like the poison types as well.
Oh yeah, absolutely. There are a ton of poisonous and venomous animals.
And the bug types as well, because um
Yeah, Depending on the size of the bug type, yeah.
Right. Like I mean, like Durant, the Gen 5 ant Pokemon is just essentially an ant with just like armor essentially that's just like really hard shell. It's like steel. Um,
Oh yeah, I mean, there's ants like that.
so we already technically have our own real life Durant. Don't catch it in a Pokeball, guys. Those don't exist, and I don't think the ant would appreciate you taking it from its home. So don't do that either.
Yeah, probably it wouldn't.
But like Pokemon like Apom, like it gets like an appendage with like a hand on the end of its tail to grab things easier. I can see that happening as well
Um,
at some point.
yeah, I mean, it's possible. Especially if like it arises from a just a very well articulated tail that can already grasp stuff. I think
Hmm.
it's very possible that it could work similarly.
Hmm. But yeah, guys, I'm sorry to say we're not going to be getting a fire breathing monkey or anything.
Yeah, my favorite Pokemons are Ampharos and Gengar, which are both pretty biologically weird.
Now, the one that I have that's actually kind of like biologically accurate, that's my favorite Pokemon of all time, is Poliwag.
Yeah, I mean, it's just a big old
Tadpole.
tadpole.
That can
So
either
I mean,
evolve into a big buff tadpole or a frog.
yeah. So I mean, it's possible. I don't think it would be as big as it is, but it's definitely something that
Mhm.
is like there are tadpoles, and
And it
they do pretty much look like tadpoles.
and it wouldn't be and I definitely would not be able to like shoot water out of its mouth like in a high pressure blast or bubbles or
Actually, there's a fish that can do that.
oh yeah, the archer
Um,
fish.
yeah, it hangs up near the surface of the water and shoots water at, or like a very pressurized beam of water at,
Insects.
insects and small birds flying overhead,
Yeah, so guys, we
and
already
knocks
got
them
our
into the
own
water underneath them.
we got our own real life Goldeen. Again, don't catch it.
Yeah, please don't. Uh, but I think water type moves are relatively more plausible than fire type moves,
Oh yeah.
obviously. Although there is a type of beetle called the bombardier beetle,
Oh, that like
and
sprays that acid mix on people.
yeah,
It's like pepper spray
so it's
essentially.
possible. Actually, one of my favorite subjects of speculative biology is how dragons could possibly breathe fire. And one of the
Ooh.
ways that I think is most possible is that they can release methane through their mouths instead of like farting out. Um, and then they have a little pouch or something in their throat with some kind of a flint that they can choose to spark, maybe against their teeth, to set a spark against the methane and breathe fire. So I think it's
That I like
very
that.
interesting that stuff like that is possible, but it would be the result of very specific evolution.
Right. Now I just remembered this probably because I had like my Pokemon figures in like this clear thing, and I just looked and I noticed one that actually fits perfect for this. Um, there's the Gen 4 Bagworm Pokemon Burmy that can like change its cloak depending on where it is. If it's sand, it makes like a cloak out of sand. If it's in a city, it makes like its little cloak out of trash. If it's in the forest, it makes it out of grass. And if it's a female, it can evolve into any like different types of Wormadam that have that same cloak and become part of its body. Um,
Mm-hmm.
like if you introduce like a bagworm like in a desert without trees, would probably have to adapt to like make a new cloak or something to keep it safe.
Yeah, I think that's possible. I mean, there are animals with like weaving insects that do weave themselves nests and stuff like that. So it's possible, especially considering like insects and birds when they're building nests will generally just use whatever's around.
Right.
So
I was gonna
Yeah, I
ask you
find
about
that
the
one
I was gonna
very
ask
valuable.
you about the Thunderbird, but then I remember what you said about the megafauna. So and um
The Thunderbird is really cool, and I feel like it probably existed at some point. Like it might be a like an interpretation of some kind of extinct megafauna, avian dinosaur.
like the
I don't think it
Quetzalcoatlus
exists
or
now.
Argentinus magnificus.
Yeah, I think it's definitely something like that. I don't think it's extant, but I think it probably existed at some point.
Hmm. I remember something now. Um, Another creature that's honestly just like really like, well, it's like essentially the same as it was like years and years and years ago is the Solenodon.
The Solenodon.
It's like a little hairy rodent looking creature that was like essentially it was like one of the first mammals and it's still alive to this day, I think.
Oh yeah, yeah. Some organisms work just as well as like they did as they did. Like some animals evolved in such a way that they're simple and efficient, and they work just the same as they did, several million years ago. The coelacanth is one of them. Stuff like that. It's pretty
For
cool.
those of you guys that don't know what a Solenodon is, it's this cute little guy right here. Um,
Yeah, they're really cute.
you want one of these guys as a pet though because they are venomous. It says,
Yeah,
but yeah, no, he hasn't changed much like over the years. He kind of looks more like a possum in a way.
they do look pretty possum-y, but possums don't have that nose.
But yeah, no, if you
Uh,
look at them, they do look like an ancient creature that once existed, but they still do. They haven't changed like at all, like over the course that they've been around.
yeah, some species are like that. They strike it gold with the first like
Mm.
adaptations they get, and they pretty much just
And honestly, I'm okay with this because the Solenodon's cute as shit.
it is cute as hell. It looks like a weird little rat baby elephant.
God, rats are great. Mm.
I like rats. Rats are fun.
Rats are I fucking love rats. Oh, so
So if nobody
oh, go ahead.
does anybody have any more questions they'd like me to give my opinion on in chat?
I guess we'll wait for him to type out. What about? I was gonna ask you about turtles. Um, like that shells obviously like slows them down a lot. Um, on land is would there be like a way like over time can you kind of see like a turtle like slowly like um I don't know like losing its shell to make it more fast over time or
I mean, there is something similar to that. Like soft shell turtles exist, but they are aquatic as far as I know.
yeah
So turtles are actually all marine or aquatic. You're thinking of tortoises.
yeah tortoises.
Um, yeah, no worries. But I think it's possible. I don't think it's very likely though, considering the shell is part of their spine, and any mutations in that region can be very dangerous. Um, so, especially considering like turtles are, I mean, they move slowly, but they that doesn't really matter so much because they're protected by the uh,
The shell, yeah.
um, yeah. Yeah. So it's not really so much of a big deal that they're so slow. Whereas if they moved uh, faster and had a thinner shell, they would probably be less. I don't know how to describe it. Like it would probably be not a very beneficial mutation for whatever organism initially developed it.
It would be like a downgrade essentially.
Yeah, I mean it's possible.
But wouldn't be the most amazing thing for him.
Yeah.
All right, doesn't look like anybody else typed anything in the chat.
All right.
All right, I guess you want to call it then? We've been going for about like 2 hours essentially.
Yeah, we can call it.
All right, this was fun. We'll have to have you back on again. We can, I don't know, what would you want to talk about next time that you're on here? We can maybe do like variations. We can maybe like dive deeper into like the variations of like different cryptids, like the different variations of Bigfoot and like how they work in their climate and stuff.
Yeah, that would be fun.
Yeah.
I'm Rhys. Thank you for having me on your show,
Yeah, absolutely.
and
Plop your link
it's
as
been a lot
well,
of fun.
so people can join your Discord.
Yeah, I'll post it again. If you're interested in biology, you can go ahead and join this Discord. We also have sections for helping out with people's homework and just generally having a good time.
Hmm. And there's a lot of speculative evolution in there, as well as biology, botany, and all other types of how nature works.
Yeah, we're pretty generalized,
They
but we
they
do have a lot of fun.
they
So,
got everything covered, and it's a great group, and the people there, it's just a fun vibe group. So definitely check it out.
yep.
All right, well, thank you so much for coming on. This was great.
Thank you for having me. This has been fun.
Yeah, anytime. Yeah, I'd like to have you on again at some point so we can talk about the variations and stuff. I feel like that would be really cool.
Yeah, absolutely.
All right, I'll let you get going then. Thanks so much again.
Bye
All right,
bye. Have a good night.
you too. Good night. All right, guys. So that was Rhys. I want to thank him so much for coming out, and thank you guys for giving him all that support as well. That was amazing. I'm glad you guys came with your questions and everything for him because he really appreciated that. That was a good stream. He's been wanting to do this for a little bit, and we finally managed to work out a day that would work great for both of us. So if you guys like this video and want to see Rhys back, be sure that like button. I heard if you dislike this video, you will de-evolve into a weird little blob creature. Hold on, let me see what I can do. You'll de-evolve into this. If you don't want to de-evolve into this creature right here, the only way not to become this creature is hit the like button on this video, guys. Also, if you're new, please consider hitting that subscribe button, become a member of the Crypto Crew today. Every subscription means the world to me, guys, and I really appreciate you guys always coming out to watch these videos. And this stream, it's been one of my first streams since the ghost hunt, like my actual first sit-down stream talking to you guys, with a guest on as well. So this was really fun. I miss doing these. I'm gonna try to make these like more of a regular occurrence. Still not gonna do them like every single Sunday because that was just super stressful, and I had to plan a lot for them. So not all the time, but we'll do them like probably like a couple times a month, see how that goes. And if you guys like it, we'll go from there. So since I did live stream today, guys, unfortunately, no Mythical Menagerie today. We will be doing that again next Sunday, though, so stay tuned for that. We're going to be talking about a creature from Russia. So I hope you guys enjoy that. And tomorrow we're going to be doing a Cryptocast footage review. Um, Granted, that actually may be pushed till Tuesday because I do work tomorrow till a little bit later than what I was hoping for. So that may be pushed to Tuesday. So anywhere between Monday and Tuesday, that Cryptocast footage review will be out. And we'll be looking at the Gable video that James Turner suggested in the live chat over here. We'll be taking a look at that, kind of deep diving it. So I hope you guys are ready for that. And then Wednesday, we're going to have a cryptid ratings where I'm going to be rating my cryptids like I normally do. So I thank you guys so much for coming out today. It means the world to me and Rhys as well. And again, Rhys, thank you so much for coming out. So I hope to see you guys again next time, and stay safe. Things are kind of getting bad out there again. Just do what you guys have been doing, and we'll be just fine. So you guys have been watching Cryptocast. I've been your host, Parker. Stay spooky, and I'll see you guys in the next Cryptid Ratings. Or Cryptid Ratings, no, Cryptocast Livestream. I have Cryptid Ratings on the mind today. All right, guys, I'll see you next time.